What is up, guys? We're back here in downtown again. This time we're going to a place called, I don't know what is it called, but something Harbor Cold Park. Today's video is, guys, teach you how to shoot landscape shots, what focal lengths to use, and how to shoot your composition. We're like 2 minutes out. Let you know when we reach there. I forgot to give shout to my boy Aman. Throw his Instagram right here. Okay, my bad. This place is actually called Harbor Green Park. We're here. We're trying to get some drone shots, but no guarantees because it's gonna be super windy right now. At least that's what it is out there. So let's see what happens. Another quick tip is when you're scouting locations, use the 3D map view on Google Maps. It helps you to plan your shots. And shout out to Jeremy from Instagram telling me this cool trick. He said always use Google Earth before planning your trip. That helps you to visualize what type of shot you want to get. Alright, so we're here at our location. Hopefully we can get some good shots here. So right here we found a ladder. Yep, find the ladders, bro. We're gonna get down on the rocks. Let's go. Okay, so tip number one is when you're doing landscape photography, always try to bring your tripod along because that shit is very useful. Tip number two, ND filter. Now what this does is it blocks the amount of light entering in your lens. And what that allows you is to get those epic long exposure shots with the buttery smooth ocean. All right, so once you have your tripod and your camera and everything set up, just try to find a good composition. So in this case, as you can see, there is some ocean and I want to capture that island over there. And so I'm trying to find a good balance in between those two where, you know, the ocean doesn't really overtake the island, but at the same time you can see visibly what the island is. The part where you have to decide what focal length you want to use. So in this case, I have the 24-70 f4. And what that allows me is to get a fairly wide enough shot to a fairly telephoto shot. Now, there's one single problem here. If you can see, the scene is a little too wide. Case where, say for example, the island to the ocean ratio isn't really that great. It would be better if you got, say for example, maybe a 70-200 or an 85-1.8. That could have worked better. You just gotta do with what you gotta do. I have gotten this composition right here. As you can see, let me just move that up for you. So right here is I am trying to balance out the sky with the ocean and just get a trail of trees in the middle, trying to create that cinematic sequence. Also keep in mind, you want to try reducing your shutter speed as lowest as you can. So in this case, I'm using a shutter speed of 8 seconds with an f/22 and ISO 50. And keep in mind is try to come maybe early in the morning during golden hour. Is that where you truly get like not the most amount of light, but enough light to create a good shadow and a depth of field like this. Forgot to mention is always make sure to turn off any sort of stabilization in your camera. Right now I had VR turned on and that kind of screwed up with the image, so just keep that in mind. When you're using a tripod already, you know, you're rock steady, so sometimes the sensor can confuse that with shake and that'll cause more blur in your image, which you don't want. Tip is you can always wedge your tripod in between the rocks to create an even more sturdier hold. And so that's when you're using long exposure and very you could say high number of apertures, the problem you might face is parts of your image may be sharp and the other parts may not be sharp. So what you can try to do that is use a concept called focus stacking, is where you can try to focus in between the closer parts of the image and the farther parts of the image, and then in post, like such as Photoshop, you can always combine them together and get an overall sharper image. You can also use something called bracketing, which also allows you to capture exposures up to -1 and +1. And what that allows you is you capture all the highlights and the shadows in full detail. These where I'm fully exposed for the sky, but I'm not exposed for the rock. You can barely see the rock, and I'll show you that right now. But what happens is your shadows are completely underexposed and your highlights are exposed. So what you take is 2 pictures or maybe 3. The best ratio is 5. So you can have one image which is properly exposed, and the two images which will be, you could say, +1 and +2 overexposed, and the other images which are -1 and -2 underexposed. So you can capture all sorts of and get the best dynamic range possible. Unfortunately, I can't fly the drone here because, as you know, Canada Place is right behind me. And if you don't know what that means, is there's a shit ton of air traffic here. And flying a drone here would be considered reckless in Canadian law. So be very careful with what you're doing on a drone, because it only takes one guy to make the laws all tougher. Second part, where we have this crooked house. I like how it's tilted, so I want to capture some again with the 24-70 f4 using the ND filter, you know, on a tripod to get a stable shot. I have a color polarizer filter which is called CPL. You want to bring that along. What that allows you to do is, you know, you can see all the reflections on the water, and what a CPL does is it eliminates all of that, so you can get a nice vivid view of the ocean as well as the sky. Go scout your location, you know, just don't stick to one angle. Maybe stand there, stand here, just go up and down, sit down, maybe get high up. Visualize how the type of image is going to come in the camera, because at the same time, with a different focal length, you always want to, you know, visually see what your type of composition is, what you're going to get. They say the eye has like a 50 millimeter focal length, and you can focus up to 21, but I don't know. Just look at it, stand, see what you find, see what you like. Tripod is sturdy enough, the wind usually blows it away. So one quick handy little thing is what they've included if you come right here is you can attach some sort of weight here, or like a sandbag. If you're on a budget, just grab your camera bag right there. Boom, you have an even stable tripod, and this thing is not gonna move with any wind now. Save a couple of bucks, get the highest possible filter diameter of any filter you want, and then get step up rings or step down rings. So what this allows you to do is you can just get one filter, and you can use the step up rings and the step down rings to fit any type of lens you have. So instead of carrying around like 10 different types of filters, you can just use one and use the step up rings for the rest of the work. If you come around here, I have a color polarizer filter on there. You just grab that one sec. So right there, it's a little bluish and a little tingy. And what this does is how the ocean has a little bit of reflection. And so I'm gonna pop that up on the screen right now. And basically what happens is if I twist the filter, you can see the ocean getting darker and giving more vibrance to the scene, you would say. So you can see if I twist that back again, you see how it's all, there's a lot of reflection. You twist it again, cut down on all that reflection right there. Tip is, if you don't have a cable release where you can connect a cable with a remote and like just eliminate any sort of camera shake, there's an option in a camera. It's called exposure delay mode. And so for all you Nikon shooters out there, it's in the custom menu, and then it should be in D4. So if you click that, you can see a bunch of options. 3, 2, 1 point. Once you press the shutter button, in normal cases, instantly the sensor opens up and it starts capturing the photo. But if you set an exposure delay of, let's say, 3 seconds, once you press the button, the camera's not going to do anything for 3 seconds. And then it's going to open the shutter up, and then after 3 seconds, once the sensor has been opened, then it'll start capturing the photo. So this is slightly different than what a self-timer might be, is because what a self-timer does is it waits a few seconds and then it opens the shutter and it instantly captures the photo. But in this case, it opens the shutter and then it leaves the sensor exposed for a couple of seconds to eliminate any sort of vibrations, and then with that, then it starts capturing a photo. So this is very handy. And if you use self-timer with exposure delay mode, I honestly think you don't even need a cable shutter release. So you can save some money there. So I hope you guys enjoyed those tips. We're about to head out here, and